my first question is about developing and developed country regarding to the ESG topic. So we know there is a price difference between developing and developed countries in the international carbon trading market. So how would you describe this opportunity for all the developing countries in terms of implementing the green development plans and narrow the economic differences?
There are reasons for differences in the price of carbon in the developing countries and the developed countries. Part of them relate to the fact that the developed countries often have a price or that is generated under a cap and trade regime. So the European ETS, is very high because the reduction schedule is very, very tough. It also includes a different set of actors that are present in other systems. California, which is not a national system, but a state system, but big, because if California was a country, it would be the sixth or biggest country in the world by GDP. So that one has offsets, that is the ability to take carbon out of the atmosphere after it has put up a smokestack, and allowances, which is got to do with carbon that comes out of the smokestacks. Allowances are very different than offsets, and this is very important to realize. And some systems only have allowances, such as the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative in the US, which is regulated cap and trade. California has allowances and offsets. China has only allowances. And then some countries don't have any cap, but just contribute through reforestation projects, solar projects, and they are part of the voluntary market. I think the message is that people need to continue to be students of the voluntary market. There is a widespread interest by companies that are not involved in cap and trade systems. A lot of the high-tech companies buy voluntary carbon. So the developing countries should be students of those markets because very often they could contribute to a decrease in CO2 by selling various offsets that are produced in their country. But it's very important for the audience to realize that offsets and allowances are as different as men and women, children and adults, small cars and Lamborghinis and Ferraris. Just because it's a car, it doesn't make it homogeneous. And I think it's very important that everybody understand that when they see a price, they have to understand the underlying regulations, verification, monitoring, and all of the details. So that's a very important message for anybody in a developing country. You can contribute positively in the environmental world, but you have to be a student of what the projects are, what is being demanded, how a voluntary market works. And I believe that if you do that, then the developing world can be part of the solution because the voluntary markets have since Glasgow, since the work of the former governor of the Bank of England, Mark Carney, and his project, becoming a very important tool for combating climate change.
Thank you. China has an increasingly important role in international climate collaboration and coordination. So what kind of role can China learn and share the experience with other countries to further increase the integration of the renewable resources?
I think China is learning, and this system, as you know, began in last July. It is small and only has utilities in it, but that's 2,200. But it has a 4.5 billion ton market and promises to be the largest in the world. And they are, in fact, in a position and are learning from more developed markets about what to do. But I think China's most important role is to prove the concept that a cap on emissions with tradable markets that are regulated, that where there's educated accountants and lawyers and journalists and professors and scientists, all of whom understand this complex combination of economics and law and sociology and psychology, and I think China could be a beacon as they learn how to do it and balance it with economic growth. It could be a model for the rest of the world and a critical model.
Thank you. As we know, China strives to be carbon neutral by 2060. So you describe climate change as the economist cost-benefit question, right? So that also involves with the carbon pricing. So what do you think the carbon pricing can do as a valuable policy toolkit to promote clean energy transaction?
Well, price is a signal. You use it yourself. You might decide that for the value, it would be better to have chicken as opposed to pork. They're substitutable. So your behavior might be dictated by price as well as availability. Price is the signal for people to compare the cost of buying carbon or the cost of technology. And the simple decision rule, if it's cheaper to buy allowances than it is installing a technology, you buy the allowances and you're able to hedge yourself by being in compliance until you can install the technology and it's cost effective. If alternatively, the price of carbon is higher than the cost of the technology, then you install the technology and you can sell the excess allowances into the market. So it dictates. It not only does it dictate to existing technologies, there might be a young woman out there with a brilliant idea, and she sees the price of carbon is 30 whatever, RMBs, dollars, euros, but she has a great idea. She's going to invent something where it only costs $2 or 2 RMB. And so price sends a very important signal to inventors about exploring and the profitability of not only solar or wind, maybe it's biodiesel, which actually did happen in America, where an MIT professor saw the price of carbon and realized that he could, with microbes, create a fuel that was clean energy. It might be a signal to start hydrogen in a cycle. It might be a signal to do certain financial events on the blockchain or not do it. So price is really a signal that changes behavior. Now, we're guided by a number of different things in inventing a market. And when we do that, we have got to look at three things, and one of them is simplicity. And it's very important, even though it is a complex problem, the idea is to create a simple structure. That is most important. Complexity and what it brings is not a facilitator of ESG practices. The simpler you can make them, the better people will be off. The second thing is to keep in mind, it doesn't have to be perfect, okay? Art can have slight imperfections. Great art often does. It is not perfection that is, but is the perfect can be the enemy of the good. You want to get it almost right, and the cost of getting it totally right or perfection is not worth the additional cost. So keep it simple. Recognize that the perfect can be the enemy of the good, okay, as Voltaire said. And third, it's all about price. You know, to get price transparency and price discovery.
Thank you. As the double carbon roadmap was introduced, more companies are willing to incorporate green and low carbon into their corporate development goals. I know this is a really big question, I'm not gonna lie, but how can companies reduce their carbon footprint? What could be their first step to do?
Well, I think that they can start pricing internally, that they can really recognize and put an internal price so that if somebody does something, that they are rewarded. So for example, a worker that shuts off electricity when they go home, okay, doesn't leave water running inappropriately, understands that the supply chain can be accomplished in a more environmentally friendly way, that companies can look at their supply chain, they can look at employee behavior, they can recognize the other aspects of it, that is, you know, elements of diversity, both in gender, you know, and other ways that they can choose excellence, and that various ESG principles can be used to drive profit.
Thank you. Last, please share your valuable wishes to all the companies who attend this meeting today and to Sina Finance ESG leadership organizations. Thank you.
Thank you. I do wish you in this conference the best of luck. And in convening this, you play an important role. As you know, I'm a big fan of yours personally, Sina, and the companies that are taking the time, most importantly, to be at a conference that you have. I'm extremely optimistic about the human species being able to overcome problems. It is a very bad idea to short mankind's ability to invent and to grow. We get better and better with every decade, every century, every millennium, and I'm optimistic that working together and convening like you're currently doing has enormous value for the companies and for society. So the best of luck to all of you on this conference.